Clara Thorn, The Witch That Was Found. Written by Dawn Jones. Narrated by Amy Strong. Prologue. Jess, we've got to go. The man's voice was tense with stress as he threw a few last pieces of clothing into a small bag. I know, Alex, the woman said, her voice racked with emotion. It's just, will she be okay? She has to be, honey. Alex tried to soften his voice a bit to reassure her, but the tension refused to ease. The Thorns are good people, and they know, right now. The Paladins don't know about her, so she's safest away from us. She'll be lost, Jess moaned quietly as she zipped up her own bag. She's not old enough yet. They'll keep her, Alex said firmly. One day she'll be found. I've given them the information. They'll get her there when she needs to be. They made their way out of the apartment and down the stairs. How did he find us? Jess wondered aloud. It doesn't matter, Alex grunted as he heaved their bags into the rickety old Subaru. He did. Jess slipped into the passenger seat. She's never going to fit in, she said. Not with her talent. It's all we can do, Alex sighed. Now look, we both need to concentrate. We've only made this work once before with the car. You need to give it everything you've got. Alex backed the car into the street and then stopped to shift gears. Ready? I'm ready. They both stared out the windshield. Jess' fingers twitched in a complex pattern, and her lips moved as she muttered something under her breath. Alex's lips moved as well, although his fingers remained tight around the steering wheel. A dozen feet in front of the car, the air began to shimmer. Motes of blue and green light began swirling in an ever-growing circle. The motes lengthened into streaks and then continuous circles. Within moments, a gently rotating ring of light floated in front of the old car, big enough to drive through. That's it, Jess, Alex grunted. He took his foot of the brake, and the circle collapsed as if the ring of light had been sucked into the ground by a great subterranean vacuum cleaner. In the blink of an eye, it was gone, leaving behind a few fading sparks of bright blue and green. Alex, Jess said, her voice full of fear. They heard the sound of crunching metal before something dragged the car backwards, and everything went dark. A note from the narrator. Hello, my name is Amy Strong. I met Dawn, the author of this book, when I was just a little girl, and we've been friends ever since. When Clara Thorn was published, Dawn told me that his vision of her as a person was inspired by the little girl I once was, so when he asked if I'd narrate this audiobook, I said yes. I'm not a professional narrator, but my voice is very much that of a somewhat older Clara, and I hope I'm able to bring her to life in your mind. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you enjoy Clara Thorn, The Witch That Was Found. Chapter 1. A Pretty Good Day. Mrs. Hickling smiled as Clara laid the completed exam on her desk and whispered, Good for you. Clara stood there as the teacher ran the answer sheet through the grading machine and watched the older woman raise an eyebrow as the device spat out the sheet, marked with a 0, meaning no wrong answers. Really good for you, Mrs. Hickling whispered. That's it for the day. Why don't you head home early? Clara packed her things and slipped out of the classroom. Clara had practically run out of the school building, skipping happily down the worn, cracked concrete stairs in the front. Going home 2 hours early meant she'd avoid the usual teasing, bullying, and mean looks that often accompanied her walks home. It also meant she'd avoid the hordes of SUVs zooming in and out of the school parking lot, picking up the kids who were too good to ride the bus but lived too far away to walk. The Las Vegas weather was just starting to turn hot as summer approached, but this particular afternoon was near perfect. Clara took the school's great stone staircase 2 at a time and then looked back. The tall, deep red building contrasted sharply with the bright blue sky, and for a moment she felt out of place here all alone. The teasing, bullying, and name-calling of her schoolmates was so routine, so usual and predictable, that Clara could practically conduct it all without anyone else present. It would start with Dan.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?